happens when the stage lights go out? Jikook and The Secret moment is now viral. As the thousands of lights dimmed and the stage screen slowly darkened, everything visible to the public's eyes went out. But for some of the army who were present in person at the closed-door concert, it was precisely then that the truth finally emerged. In an internal military concert held behind closed doors a few weeks ago, only a small number of staff and family members were allowed to attend. No live broadcasts, no official documentation. But as ARMY has long known, true love doesn't need a camera to shine. And that moment, which was later leaked in the form of a 17-second video that is now viral, left millions of fans around the world transfixed. The video shows the moment when all the lights went out at the end of the final performance, and the soldiers who performed began to leave the stage. But two figures remained standing in the middle. One of them reached out slowly, then the other accepted it. Jimin and Jungkook. The sound in the video is so low, but enough to hear one sentence from Jimin, slowly but shaking the world. "You are always there, even when I refuse to look." Jungkook did not answer, but he grasped the hand more tightly, and in the brief darkness they attract each other in an embrace that is not just a friendship. The reaction from fans was very emotional. Many wrote that the moment was like a confirmation, not in the form of words, but actions that are more honest than anything. A large fan base writes, "Jikook doesn't need to clarify. The world can interpret itself." But we see love there, love that lasts even in the dark. Interestingly, the video is believed to have been taken by one of the family members of another military personnel who accidentally recorded up to several seconds longer than the protocol. The piece leaked to the online community before going viral. Now, many soldiers are actually grateful because they have finally been shown something that they have only felt in the spotlight of the stage. Jikook, who has always been wrapped in speculation, fan theories, and small behind-the-scenes science, now feels even more real. Not because of sweet words or official statements, but because of one hug in the dark that was recorded without them knowing it, and perhaps in a world where everything is polished for the public. It is precisely those unplanned moments that are most frank. One hug, one hand, a silent sentence that becomes an inner voice. When all the lights go out, what remains is what is truly in their hearts. And now the whole world knows. A few days after the video went viral, social media hasn't stopped shaking either. Despite being only 17 seconds long, the piece contains a deep emotional charge, enough to make thousands of fans shed tears and feel as if they had witnessed a history that was never meant for the public. However, internal sources revealed that the moment was not the only emotional interaction that took place that night. A staff member of the military event said anonymously, Jimin refused to leave the stage. He was standing in the middle of a lamp that had gone out. Jungkook came over, and the two of them just stood for a long time, as if they were saying something that could not be said in front of the crowd. It is also said that after that moment, the two returned to the dressing room in silence. But according to eyewitnesses, Jimin's eyes looked wet. Jungkook remained beside her, patting her shoulder once, briefly, but enough to give her strength. After the viral video spread, the army began to associate it with various symbols and messages that had been hidden behind Jikook's appearance and words. For example, in a handwritten letter Jimin once released to fan club last year, he wrote, "Love does not always speak. Sometimes he just stood there in the dark, waiting." Jungkook, in an interview before his conscription, had said, "I want someone who stays even though I'm not perfect. Someone who knows my silent side." Those words used to be considered just ordinary personal reflections. But now, with the advent of that moment of silent embrace, it all feels like pieces of a puzzle that have been scattered and finally come together. For most fans, the hug is not just a physical gesture. It was the answer they had been waiting for without ever asking a question. Many of us have always believed there is something more than just friendship between them, one army member wrote on a Korean community platform. But we also always respect their boundaries. Now, with that one hug, they give us the most beautiful gift, the truth, even if only for a moment. When the stage lights went out and the concert crowd began to subside, the atmosphere became quiet, as if time stopped for a moment only for them. In the back room of the stage, the sound of footsteps and quiet whispers replaced the roaring cheers of the audience. But in that silence, two figures stood close together, standing among the shadows, carrying a burden that could not be said in words. Jimin sighed deeply, his tired eyes looking straight ahead without focus, trying to gather the courage to open the heart that had been locked. Jungkook, with his gentle smile and understanding gaze, grabbed Jimin's hand slowly. There is no need for words, because in the palm of the hand are stored unspoken promises and confessions. They stood there, away from the spotlights and cheers, sharing the warmth they had been hiding from the world. For a moment, all wounds, regrets, and misunderstandings are erased by a sincere hug, a hug that says more than 1,000 words. Deep down, they knew their journey would not be easy. But just then, in the darkness of a backstage room, they discover one thing for sure. They are not alone. Their love and friendship, though shrouded in secrecy, are alive and strengthening, and when the stage lights come back on, they walk out together, ready to face the world with renewed vigor, a bond that is now more real than ever. A few minutes after the hug, the backstage atmosphere was still quiet. Military staff seemed to be busy dismantling equipment, while other performers began to return to the barracks. But Jimin and Jungkook were still sitting on the side of the stage, in the darkest place, as if they were both still not ready to return to the real world. Jimin leaned against the wall, looking down in silence. Jungkook sat beside her, their knees touching each other. There were no words between them, not because they didn't want to talk, but because they had too much to say and didn't know where to start. Finally, Jungkook spoke first. His voice was quiet, almost whispering. "You think we'll be like this forever?" Jimin nodded slowly. In his eyes, there was water that had not yet had time to fall. "It's a small nod. I don't know," he said honestly, "but I know. Tonight you make me feel like I used to again. Like when I believe that there is someone by my side, without having to pretend to be strong." Jungkook sighed, then chuckled a little, not because it was funny, but out of relief. It touched Jimin's hand, interlocking their fingers slowly. "I'm never leaving, Hyung. I'm just waiting. You stay away." Jimin didn't argue, because he knows it's true. He knew he had shut himself up. Jungkook once refused to be present for fear of a reality he could not control, because the world was too cruel to the inexplicable. But that night, everything was different. Eye in the dark, no camera, no spotlight, and no judgment. There are only them. Two hearts that finally returned spoke in a language that only they understood. A few days after the incident, Jimin wrote a handwritten letter. Not for the public, not for the media. The letter was handed directly to Jungkook on a secret occasion through an intermediary at the base. The content is simple. "Thank you for staying. I know I hurt you without knowing it. But if you're still willing, I want to fix everything. I want us to talk again, even if it's just about the weather. I want to sit next to you without a burden, because I missed you. Not as a friend, not as a fellow BTS member, but as someone who was once my home." Jungkook never replied to the letter in writing, but he sent her something in reply, a little book of old photos of the two of them that he had kept for a long time. On the last page, one sentence is written: "The house never went away. You just got lost for a second." The moment of embrace on stage, it only lasted a few seconds. But for Jimin and Jungkook, it was a turning point. Amid the rigors of military life, amid distance, time, and unseen pressures, they find each other again. Not perfect, but enough. And for armies around the world, they don't need an official statement. They do not need confirmation. True love is not always announced. Sometimes he appears only in a small smile, a hand in a dark place, and a letter that no one reads but two hearts that understand each other.